I got an iPad. And you know what I wanted to do for the video this month? Draw on it. You know what I'm not doing this month? A drawing on this. Yeah, the Apple Pencil I got was broken. It had scuff marks all over it, so I sent it back. And yeah, that left me with an overpriced screen and Pokémon. As basically everybody in my age category, I have a long history with Pokémon, mostly with the video games, less so with the TCG. I did collect Pokémon cards to some extent, but I don't have a lot anymore. But you know, this is scratching an itch. I particularly like the art cards. They have like this one, Electrode. Such a heavy hitter too. I love this guy. A girl, or no, I don't think they have a gender, so love them. So I figured, let's do some art for a favorite Pokemon of mine. And I have 4 favorite Pokemon. Those are Ampharos, Espeon, Latias, and Swampert. The deciding factor could be which of these Pokemon has the fewest card variants. So I'm just looking at the German releases, and Swampert has 15. Espeon has a whopping 27. Latias also comes in at 27. And Ampharos even has 28. So I guess we're drawing Swampert. Alright, now that I have a rough sketch with some color established, let's bust out the big guns. For this piece, I decided to use alcohol markers. Mostly the Uhuhu markers I recently got and haven't gotten around to using much yet. This also presented a good opportunity to use my render sketchbook again. It's been collecting dust for a long time. I started using this in 2021 and it has 3 pieces, no 4, in it. The paper in the sketchbook is different, is a good word, I'd say. For one, even alcohol markers, which are notorious for bleeding through everything, can't get through this. This allows both sides of the sheets to be used. And to achieve this, the paper is interesting in its use. The ink seems to sit on top of it, barely soaking into the material. That makes layering and even bases difficult to achieve, as you push around the ink that is already there very easily. Now, if you know this, you can use this to your advantage and create some really nice textures. And I'm using this specifically for the riverbed later on. But it sure is a learning curve, and I haven't quite figured it out yet myself either. However, the colors are vibrant on this paper, and since it doesn't pull too much ink, your markers stay juicy for a little longer. So, I was joined by a kitty. If you hear purrs, that's Elise saying hello. So, Swampert. My dear Swampert. Well, let me preface this by saying we had Pokémon Blue and also Gold, and while I liked playing them, they weren't quite as impactful to me as the third generation games. And my first impression of the third gen Pokémon came through the GameCube games, Colosseum and XD The Dark Gale. These games were quite focused on the evolutions, not so much on the Hoenn starters. But it is where I got my appreciation for Ampharos and Espeon from. XD always has Espeon and Ampharos as my mains. Latias has a lot to do with the 5th Pokémon movie, and then also turned out to be a great solo to... Latias has a lot to do with the 5th Pokémon movie, and then also turned out to be a great... Latias had a lot to do with the 5th Pokémon movie, and then also turned out to be great to solo the top 4 in Hoenn, while another Pokémon chills in the back with the EXP share. I eventually got Ruby and loved the game to bits. I had a friend with Emerald and we played and traded a lot. So there are great memories associated with this generation of Pokémon. The first time I played the game, I picked Trico as my starter and I loved the little guy. Together with Fire Red at the time, I was in my Grass-type starter phase. From a tactical standpoint, it is probably best to pick Torchic as a starter, since Hoenn is quite abundant in grass and water types, and has very few fire types. But I never did. It wasn't really until I read the Pokémon Adventures manga that I learned to appreciate Mudkip, Marshtomp, and Swampert, and when I finally got Omega Ruby, there was no other but Mudkip for me. Heck, I even got the plushie. I don't draw fan art a lot, but that only means when I do, I mean it. And I'm happy that I got to draw Swampert now after all these years. Now with the art done, it's time to scan it and turn it into an old art card. And I borrowed some assets from existing cards for that. And then that only leaves printing, foiling, cutting, and showing. I hope you had fun watching this video. Next time the iPad might finally feature, but who even knows with the half-eaten fruit company.